Raider Nation, what's going on? This is the Raiders Report, and I'm your host, Mitchell Renz. Today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the #1 sports book on the internet. I have news, rumors, some Raider Nation rumors, the 3 biggest needs for the Raiders this season, and a Week 10 matchup, so stay tuned. First news bit I have for you on tap, Bruce Irvin. He's headed to the Atlanta Falcons, back to his hometown. He was released on Friday, and he signed with the Falcons on Monday. Bruce totally gave up on the Raiders, which is why he was ultimately cut. He was scheduled to make $9 million in 2019, which is also a reason why he was let go. Maybe he can have a better future with the Falcons, but this is what now the Raiders are left with at the defensive line. And there's a lot of pieces here that don't have a lot of experience. Arden Key's going to move up now in Bruce Irvin's spot. He was underneath Bruce Irvin's wing the entire offseason. Now we maybe can see if Arden Key can live up to the hype that he had coming into the draft. Raider Nation, I want to say thank you so much for watching the Raiders Report. And if you want to watch exclusive videos that only true Raider fans can see, you're going to subscribe down below to youtube.com/Raiders Report. And hey, you can even join the show too if you subscribe below. Next news bit coming up, the Raiders, they signed Kony Ealy. He was signed on Monday. And a former second-round pick, 60th overall of the Carolina Panthers in the 2014 NFL Draft. Ealy now enters his 5th year in the league after making stops with the Panthers and the New York Jets. The defensive end has appeared in 62 games over his career with the 2 clubs, making 19 starts, racking up 90 tackles, 15 sacks, 2 picks, 6 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Ealy's at least going to be able to add a little bit more depth. He's a player where if he can maybe live up to his hype, he can just add another body, which the Raiders at this point, they just need as many bodies as possible. The next news thing coming up here is maybe my favorite one that I've done since I've started this show, and it's JaMarcus Russell watched blank tapes. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, coaches used to send JaMarcus Russell tapes to see if he would actually watch the plays. And he would say, yeah, coach, I saw the blitz pickups, I saw all of it. But they used to just send him blank tapes with nothing on it. I was dying when I heard this. I think we can all agree that JaMarcus probably is one of the biggest busts in the NFL, definitely for the Raiders. But he's the first overall pick in the 2007 NFL Draft. But Raider Nation, guess what? I actually have the exclusive tapes of JaMarcus Russell that he was given. So, if I could please bring those up here, you guys can see them as well. Here are the actual tapes. You can see right here the blitz packages. JaMarcus picks it up perfectly here, and you can see that he just handles this one perfect and makes a completed pass, right? Wrong. Wrong. There's a reason why JaMarcus was so bad in his career, because the dude didn't even watch tape, and he wasn't that talented. Here are his career stats. A 52% completion percentage. Gross. 4,083 yards. That's not good in 3 seasons of work. 18 touchdowns and 45 turnovers. Wow. JaMarcus Russell, maybe you should have watched some tape. Heck, maybe he's watching dieting videos now because I think he's over 300, but who knows? All right, Raider Nation, I want to know from you, is JaMarcus Russell the biggest Raiders bust of all time? I want you to type Y for yes or type N for no. For me, I'm typing in that Y yes when you just look at the money he was guaranteed, plus his production, plus that's also when the Raiders, I think, kind of went super downhill. So, is JaMarcus the biggest Raiders bust of all time? For me, I'm saying yes. I want to say a shout out to everybody watching the show. Please follow me on Twitter at MitchellRenz365. And heck, if you want to check me out on Instagram or if you want to Venmo me, same thing, at MitchellRenz365. If you're new to the show, you need to understand my Raider rumor scale. 0 Chucky heads, tuck rule, tuck that. This rumor, not going to happen. 1 Chucky head is a small shred of truth. I like to think 25% chance of happening. 2 Chucky heads, people are talking, 50-50. 3 Chucky heads, this rumor is pretty likely, 75% chance. And 4 Chucky heads, believe it, baby, 100% this rumor will happen. My first rumor coming up here on the board, are the Raiders, this Raiders team, is it the worst team in franchise history? I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads, people are talking. The Raiders lost 34-3 on Thursday Night Football to a 1-win 49ers team. And for anybody that watched, it was one of the most painful things I have ever experienced. This season, the Raiders' margin of defeat is 13 points. The last time it was even close to 13 points was in 1961, when the Raiders' average margin of loss was 16 points. There was only 8 teams in the league at that time. We're going all the way back. Heck, my dad was 2 years old. Sorry, Dad, gave away your age. This is a year where the Raiders could end up at 1-5, and their only win was in overtime against the Browns. So, I want to know from you, is this the worst Raiders team of all time? So for people on Facebook, give me a heart or a frowny face for no. And for people on YouTube, comment yes or no. Is this the worst Raiders team of all time? I'll tell you what, it's the worst Raiders team of my lifetime. Next rumor coming up here is, do the Raiders have the worst home odds since 2014 this week against the Chargers? I'm giving this one 4 Chucky heads. Believe it, baby. The Raiders are 10-point underdogs to the Chargers right now. The last time the Raiders were over 10-point underdogs, they were 13-point underdogs in 2014 to the Broncos. Now, these are the worst home odds. Worst home odds. And the last time that they were this bad of a home underdog was to the Broncos, like I said, in 2014. That was a Peyton Manning-led Broncos team, and the Broncos went on to win that game 41-17. And this could be the exact same game script. The Chargers could drop 41 on the Raiders. Heck, I think it would be more surprising if the Raiders scored 17 at this point. But the reason why I think the Raiders could give up 41, because this is the Raiders' last 5 games. The defense has been giving up a hell of an amount of points. They gave up 42 to the Browns. Yes, in a win. Gave up 26 to the Chargers. Gave up 27 to the Seahawks, but 42 and 34 to the Colts and 49ers. Chargers playing much better football. They've won 5 straight games, so don't be surprised if they end up dropping a 40-burger on the Raiders this week. So, I want to know from y'all. How many points will the Raiders lose by this week to the Chargers? Yeah, I'm not even going to ask are they win or not, because you guys basically give me middle fingers on YouTube for even asking the question. So here you go. How many points will the Raiders lose by this week to the Chargers? I'm going to take the over. Definitely on BetDSI, I'll take the over. The Raiders losing by more than 10 points. Speaking of BetDSI, if you want to bet on the over-under on this game, there's only one place to do it. You're going to go to chatsports.com/bet. You're going to use our promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. I challenge you to find a better deposit bonus out there on the internet, because you're not going to find one. Thanks, BetDSI, for hooking up Chat Sports with that promo. Next rumor coming up here on the board. Are the Raiders going to have 2 top 10 picks in 2019? I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads. People are talking. Remember that trade the Raiders made for AMARI Cooper? Well, I think when the Cowboys originally did that, they were like, hey, we're in playoff contention. We're going to be a playoff team. Well, they're 3-5 now, and if the draft was today, they would have the 11th overall pick. The Cowboys play the Eagles in Week 10. Sorry, Cowboys fans. I think you're going to end up losing that game. You're going to drop down to 3-6. There is a real possibility that the Raiders have 2 top 10 picks. And for a team that's in total rebuild mode, that's a really good way to end up building a roster. Imagine if we have the number 1 pick and, heck, a 10, maybe a 9 pick. Oh, man, Raider Nation, I can already get the juices are getting pumping. I'm excited. So, will the Raiders have 2 top 10 picks next year? I want you to type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. I'm going to type 1 for yes, and I'm kind of doing it with my fingers crossed, because if there's one team that I hate the most, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry if anybody's watching that's a Cowboys fan, but if I can cheer for the Cowboys to lose and it helps out the Raiders, hey, I'm all about that at this point. But will the Raiders have 2 top 10 picks? I want to know from y'all. Next rumor coming up here on the board. Are the Raiders going to be targeting Devin White? He's a linebacker out of LSU, and I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads. People are talking. He's one of the best linebackers in the 2019 NFL Draft, and I think we can all agree the Raiders, they need linebacker help. Now, why is it only 2 Chucky heads? If he's on the board for the Raiders in their 2nd pick in the 1st round, I definitely think that he could be a guy that they end up going after and getting. I mean, you're talking about he's already played in 8 games this year. He's got 84 tackles. Sure, the only 1 sack, but when you're just talking about overall production, he's going to be there. And when you look at the Raiders' linebacking depth chart, it's weak. It is ugly. I mean, Tahir Whitehead is definitely fallen off. Markel Lee shouldn't be a starter, and neither should Lemur. Like, the fact that without Khalil Mack, this linebacking core is just totally depleted. It's one of the worst in the league. And if this point for the Raiders, linebacker is definitely one of the biggest needs. Oh, man. Linebacker depth chart. Ugly, ugly to look at. You know what's not ugly to look at? Miz in the Main shirts, especially on me. And if you want to wear a Miz in the Main shirt, you're going to head over to comfortable.af, because these shirts are indeed comfortable as F. Shout out to Miz in the Main for hooking me up with this dapper shirt. Next rumor coming up here on the board. Pass rusher is the biggest need for the Oakland Raiders. This one's from John Gruden himself, and I'm giving this one 4 Chucky heads. Believe it, baby. So Gruden came out and said that the Raiders need an elite pass rusher because elite pass rushers are hard to find. And I giggle at that because I think the Raiders used to have somebody, and maybe you guys can comment his name below, because I've basically been sworn that I'm not allowed to say his name anymore on the show. The Raiders are ranked dead last in the NFL in sacks with 7. They have only 7 sacks. The Minnesota Vikings have 24 more than them. In fact, listen to this. There are 10 players, individual players, who have more sacks than the entire Raiders defense. And if you want to see that list, follow me on Twitter, @MitchellRens365, because I tweeted it out. So, I want to know from you. What's the Raiders' biggest need right now? What's the Raiders' biggest need? Is it linebacker? Is it defensive end? Is it wide receiver? Is it quarterback? I'm joking. Seriously, what's the Raiders' biggest need? Please comment below. Because when you're thinking about the Raiders' overall team, defense is definitely a need. Quarterback, I don't know if that one's a necessary lead for me, though. I'm looking at defensive end. I'm looking at running back, potentially next year in the 2019 draft. There's going to be some big-name guys there. But I think it's defensive end. I think it's linebacker. Wide receivers definitely up there as well. So if you're on YouTube, comment below. What's the Raiders' biggest need? If you're on Facebook, also put that comment in below. Next rumor coming up here on the board. Tevin Coleman to the Raiders in 2019. I'm going to give this one 2 Chucky heads. People are talking. Now, this one's from Fansided. And normally, I think Fansided is like that commercial, the Geico commercial or whatever it is. Like, oh, I got you $1. You got to be quicker than that, because Fansided is a bunch of clickbait, which I get. But this one, actually, I don't mind so much. So they talk about Tevin Coleman potentially going to the Raiders because now, Atlanta says they're going to keep Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman. But that just doesn't make sense. Coleman will be the much cheaper option than Le'Veon Bell, who's also set to potentially hit free agency next year. And for a Raiders team that's in total save mode, maybe Tevin Coleman wouldn't be such a bad player. He's only 26 years old, and I think he could handle a larger workload in Oakland. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the Raiders Report. And please remember, tell your friends, tell your family to subscribe to the Oakland Raiders Report on YouTube. It's that link below there. It's youtube.com/Raiders Report, where I release exclusive videos for only diehard Raider fans. So please, again, youtube.com/Raiders Report. Let's head on in now to the AFC West divisions, or the AFC West division winner odds. And it's the Chiefs and the Chargers, and they're just kind of laughing at everybody else. The Chiefs right now, if you put money on them, it's at -625, sitting there at 8-1. The Chargers probably going to end up going to 7-2 after this week. They got plus 350 odds. And then it's the Broncos and the Raiders. You literally have a better chance of being killed watching the Raiders Report than the Raiders winning the AFC West division odds. Seriously, that's scary. But if you actually want to bet on the Raiders or any team in the AFC West, there's only one place to do it, and that's at BetDSI. You're going to go to chatsports.com/bet. You're going to drop down that promo code LIVE120 for 120% deposit bonus. So not only are you going to get free house money, you're also going to have a fun time betting on the Raiders or any NFL game for that matter. So chatsports.com/bet. Shout out to BetDSI for hooking us up with the best promo code on the internet. Let's head in on now to Week 10. Interesting matchup, right? So it's the Chargers in Oakland. And I said before in my rumors section, this is the biggest home underdog that the Raiders have been since 2014. They are 10-point underdogs, and the over-under is 49.5. And why this game could be over is because the Raiders have been giving up a lot of points, especially on defense. Week 4 to the Browns, 42. Week 5 to the Chargers, they did only give up 26. Chargers have been playing much better, though. Seahawks gave up 27 to them, 42 to the Colts, and 34 to the 49ers. So a lot of points have been given up by the Raiders. But maybe you don't want to take the under because the Raiders only scored 3 last week. So who knows? All right, I want to know from you guys, predict the score. Raiders versus the Chargers. And here's the kicker. If you predict the score right, you're going to get $25 from me, from my back pocket. And guess what? Yes, I don't have pants, and I've had at least 10 people say, Mitch, do you actually wear pants? Who knows? Maybe if you get the right score, I'll let you know. So predict the score, Raiders versus Chargers. Slide into my DMs, @MitchellRens365. Give me that score. I almost had somebody get it right last week. They predicted 34-0 49ers, so maybe you can get it right this week. Raider Nation, thank you so much for tuning in to the Raiders Report. My name is Mitchell Renz. Please follow me on Twitter, @MitchellRens365. I'll be back Sunday after the Raiders' Week 10 game against the Chargers, so until then, go Raiders.